I used to be a yes man with no future. I used to be a cog on some big wheel. Inequities of every sort I endured, and so I cut myself a better deal. Consequently, meet the new me. I don't mind if you're with me or against. I'm the boss and I haven't looked back since. I used to spend a whole game on this side.
Greetings, colleagues around town and around the globe. I'm your host, Paul Colby. What am I the host of? Paul Colby and the Investigators, a relatively periodic show where we give you the stories behind the stories behind the stories. And when I say we, I'm talking about the trio of investigators that, generally speaking, accompanies me here tonight. And for you historians in the future viewing this particular program on whatever media you're using these days, for context, it is the 14th of April in the year of our Lord 2026 here in the state of Texas. Actually, some of us here are in the state of anxiety, but that's just a technical thing you don't have to be involved with. First thing I want to do is introduce you to my investigators, the first of which is Mark Waharm. Yeah, that's what he is. Mark Waharm is a director of the Greater Petaluma Booster Engine Study Group.
I'm sorry, are you speaking of me? That's lukewarm. Lukewarm. Yeah, you got it now. Now, your producer insisted on using my real name because my Insta handle would be Avuncular Homunculus Jefferson. You can call me Avuncular.
Okay, Avuncular. You're also the sitting president of the Standing Room Only Easter Outfit Committee and an organizer of the People for the Separation of Churches and States in North and South America. Now, first of all, I want to thank you for your service.
My service? You accusing me of some kind of status cosplay here? You know, I think what we have here is a case of some occupational overextension, Mr. Soy Boy Journal Grunkle Stan. I am just an operator with great optics optimizing optionality.
Okay, let me ask you another. I'm being administered to, but I have recently been reading your book on the caboose of power. It's pretty fascinating the way you go into detail about the levers of power, I think is what you call them, right?
Well, that's right, because without the power of the boost, your training doesn't get you anywhere. You got to get that caboose to get yourself rolling every day.
I always knew that you were in training when you wrote the book. It was never clear to me what you were training to do.
Well, to just get proper alignment, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay, you also are a student of various archives, old manuscripts and the stuff. The one that I have read repeatedly, and don't ask me why, the role of large buttocks, you know the one I'm talking about, right?
I do, because 19th century men, you know, they knew how to put the MALE in manuscript, right? So Dr. Fleadum Palmigarci, he recognized the ancient Stacies were committing an atrocity when bereft of an inadequate gluteal adiposity.
Okay, I guess that is one of the reasons that you were drawn to the study of some of these like weird left field sort of religions. I know you're an expert on the last gospel of Dewey, for example.
Yeah, Dewey. That man was on message, let me tell you. He knew how to handle the meats. All right, and I was glad to call him my landlord well after I flunked his chemistry class.
You flunked your chemistry class?
I mean, you can only
You-
turn in
you
urine for
couldn't-
homework assignments so many times.
Did it involve the Bunsen burner or something, you know, that was flammable?
I mean, I burned off a fair amount of body hair during those years, and I learned to
Okay.
regret it.
Okay.
But it wasn't my own hair.
You also studied another far out religion, at least in my book. There's a group of farmers out in the desert somewhere that burn their tractors as a sacrifice to the corn god, I guess it is.
Well, you see, you ever heard of jester maxing? All right, this was tractor maxing. So what we do for authority signaling with personal branding or institutional status for greater agricultural ROIs. All right, in other words, agroid boys will always mog wage cuck soy boys.
Okay, is that why you sued the first lady? I know you have a suit.
Indeed. Yeah, so you may see a pissed off high status Stacy, but I see a normie Jester Max Flotus who doesn't need your white knighting.
Okay, it's not about her attire.
It is not about the tire, it is not about the white wall or the black wall or whatever you want to call it. It's not about how well tread this particular series of jokes and lines are.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but it sort of bothers me. You sound like a person that is still in the latter stages of recovering from an addiction. Like, I am told, now there are a lot of rumor monger type books out there, but one of them is allegedly talking about your pimento cheese addiction, and it even has your name as the author.
My dad had put the hair in heritage. H-A-R-E. All right, his great grandparents came here on the Mayflower as part of the German Meisner Lops, and they were part Dutch Theriantes, So it's a biological fact that the only reason North America doesn't have a Vander Schmidt, Kraus, Snyder, Bauer, and Sons beer garden on every corner was the family predilection for pimento cheese.
Okay, and you still use pimento cheese, but not as a food, right?
No, as just a rectal ointment.
Okay, all right. One last question, because this group of yours, the People for the Separation of Churches and States, does that have something to do with the people in the state of anxiety getting confused about the church of perpetual guilt? I mean, they thought they were each other.
I mean, you're bringing up some difficult territory. Much of this is not really state, it's more statutory, and I was not in the room with that girl, so please, can we move on? Okay,
Speaking of moving on, I'd like to speak with my next expert investigator, yes, Jen Derbius. She is, Jen?
Oh, yes.
Can I have your attention,
Hi,
Jen
sure.
Derbius?
Yes, hi, how are you?
Fine. Did I get the name right?
What was it again?
Jen Derbius?
Oh, no. It's actually gender bias. And I understand why you might be confused, because I was formerly known as Gender Bender. That was my maiden name. And I've since married. So, yeah, gender bias.
Okay, now, what I know you for is the developer of an entire cottage industry centralized around the idea of hunting for the wild idea. I know this has resulted in a lot of wild ideas. For example, I remember the one that I have the fond memory for is when the students at some university somewhere in Europe, they created a statue of Buzzy Renoir. What was wild about that?
Well, that statue was actually constructed from 12,000 mattress samples, and you'd never know it, but the detail work on it is just spectacular. It's also
really-
very comfortable, too, if you've never experienced it.
It really is. You wouldn't know from the detail. Now, another one, you're involved with this group that is, well, you wrote about the secret lives of famous mandolin players, and I guess we all needed that kind of education, but you're also behind this move to name all of the off-planet dumpsters.
Yes, I have a story, a little backstory on that, if I may.
Okay.
Since Trump has been exporting American values along with a lot of trash off the planet to the moon, to various other planets. I think
Right.
we're dumping on Mars next. It's very exciting. So of course corporations want to get in on that. They want the naming rights, sort of like sports stadiums.
Well, like the president's off-site dumping is called the dustbin of history, right? Because
Correct.
so much of America wrapped up there.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, when you were doing these wild ideas, I understand you were, well, it resulted in a book. Why don't I just get right to the point? You had a book come out, The Elusive Pelvis, but you were telling me that that's not really what the book was about.
That was so unfortunate. I put all of this work, years of research. It was meant to be a book about Elvis, but my publisher,
Elvis Presley,
yes,
yeah.
And unfortunately, my publisher, I was unaware that the editor was Chat BLT, and so the editor came back with just the cover. It's a lovely cover and all of that. I can't fault them for that. But I just added I managed to sneak in a chapter on pelvic inflammatory disease, and it was a New York Times bestseller.
I'll be dead gum. Well, yeah, speaking of New York Times bestsellers, you also have the book on personality disorders that is really rocking the southern states, the western states. I mean, the eastern. I mean, it's rocking the entire country. You don't actually know any people with these disorders you write about, right?
Oh, most of the people I know have these disorders. In fact, since I published that book, there has been an uptick in diagnoses of depression with a little swagger, which is very fun. People are really, really enjoying that one, finding out that they have.
I'll tell you what, I am really enjoying your latest TV wild idea, which is a new program called The Obliterators. Now, if I understand this, and you didn't tell me, so that's why I'm asking, you got the idea by looking at the people who were covering up the Epstein files, right?
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
so you know a lot about the Epstein files, so I want to ask you a question. Where did Epstein get all of this money?
A nationwide chain of car washes, unexpectedly.
Car washes. I guess they also featured women of the opposite sex at the car washes.
Yes, that was the big draw. That
And-
was
and-
why he made so much money. He also robbed a few banks, but it was mostly the car wash.
Oh, now
that was
it-
just a kind of a side.
Yeah, now
side
now
jaunt,
it's
if you will,
making
side
more
hustle.
sense. I see. And speaking of robbing banks, not to cast aspersions, but I want to talk to my third expert here for a minute. It's Mel Batozast, right?
Well, sorry, boss. It's actually Melba Toast. I grew up.
Oh.
I grew up in a family of restaurateurs, so I was named after a toast, and I was actually on the menu for a while. But we won't get into that whole
Well,
thing.
your background in catering or serving people things led to your being the owner of several very popular bars, right? For example, the Bearded Taco is the one that I personally have visited.
Yeah, but sadly, boss, that was one of my many ventures that did not work out well. I set it up for engineers, and we would have every Friday was pie day, but unfortunately they would just get one beer and they'd spend their whole time analyzing the actual blood.
So all the patrons are engineers?
Unfortunately, yes, and they were so cheap. They only bought one beer, so that venture didn't last very well. So.
Okay, so you also had a bar, not exactly down the street, but further down the road, if there's a difference, called the Marigold Bar, right? And that had a different clientele entirely.
Yeah, but unfortunately, again, not a great name because Marigold Bar, it was considered to be a seedy bar, and people didn't want to go to a seedy bar. So again, it just didn't.
Seating bar, well, it used to, before it was the Marigold Bar, I understand that it used to be a warehouse for barbershop repair items. They manufactured them there?
Yeah, they had that whole way cool strap that they used to do this thing too, but then we...
Did you keep any of that equipment for some of your other ventures?
Well, for personal use, but that's a different discussion.
Okay, but it's not just bars. You also have a cafe. It's the Hard as Rock Cafe, and some of the people there, well, maybe it's all the people there, according to people who I've been talking to, all of the people there are on temporary visas, right?
Yeah, they're on actually what's little known, but they're actually known as lignite visas. But unfortunately, lignite being a soft rock, the whole visa thing with the hard rock just didn't work out. So what can I tell you, boss? I mean, none of my ventures have really taken off like a rocket.
Well, one of your ventures on the side, in addition to this restaurant and bar sort of fixation you have, is excavating archaeological sites. I understand you're after some treasure or some kind of appliances that Buzzy Renoir apparently he buried them somewhere in the Antarctic.
Well, maybe, boss. We're gonna need a little funding to, explore the whole thing, and maybe you can help us out with some funding. Perhaps.
I'll make a note of that. You're sending some strange people out to do that. You're sending out some nurses, I believe, to do that. I know this because I've read the book, Tingling the Spines of Folk Who Rarely Frolic. Does that describe the people close to you?
Essentially, but Jen and I are working together to get more frolicking people. So perhaps Jen can tell you more about how we're working.
Well, wait.
Frolicking people.
You pitched an idea to Jen one time, a wild idea.
I've pitched a lot of things to Jen, but
this one involved Donald Trump, I believe, back when he was pretending to be a successful businessman, and he wanted to have a talk show, TV show.
Yes, he did. In fact, it was meant to be just writer-free. He said he had all the best ideas, so he didn't need writers or anything like that. Unfortunately, focus groups did not find the material funny or entertaining. In fact, I believe the word they used was unsettling. So it just never came to fruition.
Oh, okay. Well, while we're talking about the big boy, let's just talk about Trump's conundrums. And I'll start by saying Trump, the big boy, and Trump, the wife, Melania, because both of them are getting too much press these days, I think. For one thing, Donald told a lot of people by way of a picture that he thought of himself as some sort of spiritual, well, Jesus, I guess, is what. But when he was pinned down in a question about this, he said that no, really, he was just showing that he wanted to be Pope. And so I guess from that we understand where he's planning to go after he's kicked out of our government. As for Melania, her bomb smell, and I hate to use that word, but I think she was in competition with the big boy, or the little guy, I guess I should say. She said, because of all these rumors going around, she said, you know, Jeffrey Epstein, whoever he is, I don't know who that is. I think I knew a Bob Epstein back there in the university days in Slovenia, and he was in the drama club. And one time we did this play called The Social Circles in New York and Palm Beach, something like that. Anyway, I was not convinced. I was not convinced by her story. And you know who else is not convinced? A lot of the judges. In the judiciary these days, judges seem to be ruling against Trump on a regular basis. Even when you get to the Supreme Court, for example, he was taking his case about birthing the right citizens to the Supreme Court, and he laid out some good reasons why you should birth the right citizens. I think he means right-wing citizens, but the judiciary then found him to be on unstable ground, and in fact, the judiciaries around the country seem to be winning the battle against Donald Trump.
See, I don't think you're exactly seeing the context properly. It's a multi-dimensional tiddlywinks that he's playing here. Now, you may be in the outfield and you're waiting for that little, the dart or the shuttlecock to come to you, but he's in a different dimension already. So those judges, they don't understand that he's midwifing this whole big Morgan bonanza that it's going to bring Armageddon,
So
but it's going to be with an angel.
You say tiddlywinks. I think people often...
Tiddlywinks.
Okay, not chest.
No,
like
no, you got to look at his chest closely.
Is that chest or chest?
Yeah, but yes.
Chest, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chest. Well, okay, he's pretty good at... Well, what I would say, though, generally, not only him, but the Republican Party seems to be going down with the ship right now. Okay, that's the way I look at it. And the response from them, as has traditionally been the case in politics, is corruption. In fact, there was a recent article about that in Gutter Politics. I've memorized some of it so that I can make keynote speeches.
I don't think it's corruption. I mean, you know what they say, ship always floats to the top. We're going to see how this turns out.
What I've heard, boss, is none of the Republican Party is familiar with the concept of going down. So, you know, I'm not really sure I can support that statement. So.
Okay. I know that little Donnie continues to get by on the promise of and the delivery of additional pizza prizes. He's already won a few of the peace prize. You were telling me that he's always trying to get a little peace prize, and he's got several of them. But while he's doing that, he's also dissing the opposition to his policies. For example, you see the No Kings rallies. Well, he is currently saying that he's calling them the Snow King demonstrations. He's saying that he's been frozen out of the political process. But that's not all he says. He says that all of those people demonstrating are actually being paid.
Well, you know, there is some truth to this, boss. Everything that I have been looking into has pointed to Big Salt, being behind the paying of the protesters.
Big Salt.
Big Salt.
That's similar to Big Oil, but it's
Yes.
salted.
Yes.
Salted. So if I were to follow the logic of what you're saying, I'd say it's not George Soros that is writing these giant checks for the demonstrators as reported in fake news lately, right?
It's actually the meeting of little chlorine and little sodium. That right now they're in a coalition for Big Salt. He should know that.
I think he does know that. I mean, I've been
Well, it's actually all, as you know, boss. It's Soros is a known palindrome, and it's a conspiracy by palindromes to take over the giant world government.
I used to ride a palindrome. It was the first horse I ever had, and I called it Betsy. It turned out it was a he, and he didn't like that very much. But that's another.
But salt can be considered an ironic molecule.
Well,
You get my drift.
At the Hard as a Rock Cafe, I know you have a lot of salt-free dishes, right? Because you don't want people.
Yeah, we don't want Big Salt getting into my profits. I mean, it was, it's bad enough they're taking over the whole freaking world, but they're not getting into my profits.
Please don't bang on the table.
Okay.
It really bothers my computer. Now,
Okay.
one thing that Big Donnie has been doing lately to kind of keep one step ahead of all the bad news, he is focusing on all of the bargains you can find in today's markets, because a lot of people are worried about, paying for groceries and stuff. What they keep missing is things like jive tractors. I picked up a jive tractor the other day for only $400 and something. I mean, they're listed at $500. You can also get fake air conditioners right now for like a song. I mean, you use fake air conditioners in your...
I do. I mean, I wasn't trying to be put out there like that, but I have a lot of fake things that I'm not going to discuss.
And used broccoli is another thing that is, easy to come by. I know your restaurant serves a lot of broccoli dishes, but I guess they're all so-called fresh broccoli.
No, actually, we found fresh broccoli is far too expensive, so we've gone with used broccoli.
The used broccoli, okay.
Speaking of restaurant supply, I was able to find 37 pint glasses for $1 a piece, if you're interested, and the only flaw I could find with them is that they had no bottoms at all.
Well, that would actually work out well for my bar because, I deal with Irish engineers who are too hammered to realize that they're getting empty pints. So I think this will work out well.
All right.
Now, who drinks from a 37-pint glass?
At this table, you mean?
I suspect that is an accomplishment if it's true.
I personally have no experience, but I did once have a palindrome. Does that count?
Well, was the surgery to
I never talk about
successful?
my surgeries, especially
Okay.
the ones below the waist. I mean,
Well, who could blame you? There's been so many.
Yeah, there have been a lot of them. But anyway, the other thing the president is emphasizing because of the job market, he's talking about all of the great job openings out there. And I was just studying this myself. You can make a lot of money right now if you know something about tuning poultry, right? You know something about that, right? I mean, all the poultry in your restaurant is
it's very finely
tuned.
very finely tuned, boss.
finely
Yes.
tuned.
You got to get those. You got to get the natural frequency of the wings has to be exactly right to So you want it to build up a little bit, but you don't want to have it at its natural
So I guess
frequency.
you would be hiring a lot of poultry tuners right now.
Well, I can't because they've killed the H-1 and H-2B visas.
Oh, all of those people are illegal.
Well, of course. What American citizens understands natural frequencies?
This other opening, I don't quite understand. The dead battery counters, does that have something to do with our space program needing to know how many batteries are not working on the spacecraft, things like that?
Well, I can ask Jen, do dead batteries actually, are they still on the voter rolls, or do they remove dead batteries when they die? Do you know?
I'll have to look into
I
this.
think
I'm
I
not
think
aware.
they all voted for Jimmy Carter back when he was talking nuclear physics, and when you're talking about nuclear physics, you don't really need batteries as such.
That's a great insight, boss.
Yeah.
This is why you're the boss and we're just investigators.
Let me tell you something, though, about, well, while we're on the subject of jobs, I know that the administration has offered Alexandria Ocasio, AOC we call her, a new, well, not a new job, an old job at a new place. In other words, they would like her to be a bartender again, working for a little less, just so that she would shut up. If she were a bartendress, then she wouldn't get so much camera time, right?
Will she be serving the empty pints that Jen?
I understand that has something to do with it. And another person, Pam Bondi, you know, people were saying, poor Pam, she got fired from her DOJ position, but she rebounded pretty quickly, and now she is heading up the legal team that represents some of the aluminum bat manufacturers. I know that they've been sued in a lot of these cases where people refuse to go into your restaurant or refuse to go to your lectures, and they were beaten with aluminum bats. No comment?
Well,
no comment?
It's hard to, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's really hard to beat people with an aluminum bat because you got to kind of grab it by one wing and kind of like hit it with the other wing, and it's just not very effective.
Okay, look, at the same time that Pam was moving on, you know, to a new legal position, there was a help wanted ad from the Department of Justice. They were looking for somebody who could keep an eye on, I think it was several million files, and they said that ethical flexibility would be a plus. Anybody know more about that story?
Now, I'm still stuck on what you were saying about people hiring for a chicken tuna. Now, I've been trying to teach my own fish to sing, and so I never thought about having a fish tuna, but one day I've been planning to release a cod piece. And now that I know that there's a fish tuna, I can finally rest easy.
If you release a cod piece, you've already got one ticket buyer, right? Well, two ticket buyers right here. I know you love the arts, especially.
That sounds awfully fishy to me. I'm not sure I'm believing that.
I mean, the way that the youth said, I think technically I'm about to drop a cod piece.
Oh, okay. Well, that's different because I understand they're breakable, fragile, something like that.
I may not be ethically flexible, but I'm certainly morally flexible.
Are you going to apply?
What's that? I will apply for anything that could possibly get me money.
It says right there, help wanted. I guess, you know, if you want to stop being one of my investigators. Speaking of people who want to stop, I'll talk about Pete Hegseth as an example. He's been firing a lot of people in the military who have staff positions. I mean, these are important people, but he has a policy, I guess it goes back to that big, beautiful billboard where they are talking about all of the people in the military will be replaced, except that we will be putting in people who either are Foxy or with Fox. That's what our military is going to look like, and that's why. I guess that's why we're winning so big. I understand we're winning big. The president also, while I'm thinking about this, the president is also trying to get good marks by talking about his new approach to housing. He is making possible the purchase of some houses for just $2,000. Now, they're not very big, but they are equipped with telephones, and they're painted, and I think they're rainproof. A lot of, well, I don't know, they do look kind of small.
That's just because you're too far away. They're
really,
yes.
If you get right up on them.
And they're sensitive.
So it would be okay for a family of 4, for example.
I mean, if they take one at a time.
Okay, well,
if they were very close.
in my family, we used to have arguments all the time about using the bathroom, so it was, one at a time. So I guess you could work it out.
That may be what caused all your surgeries, but yeah.
Once again, I don't talk about
okay.
I don't talk about that. I do talk about the ballroom that the president has been building by tearing down parts of the previous White House. You have all seen pictures, I guess, of what seems to be going on in the ballroom, but the president says people don't really understand it, and so he released a picture the other day of the ballroom, and it is just full of balls.
I mean, it's the same way he treated. He sacked Bondi, and he sacked what's her face, Nome. Yeah, he just sacks people every time, and this is going to be a mausoleum to celebrate and his signature.
Well, I have also heard that he said he was building this ballroom because a lot of people in Congress didn't have balls.
Well,
but they do have bathrooms. We were discussing that a little while. In fact, this ballroom has lots of bathrooms because I guess everybody who goes to one of the events at the White House is going to want to sneak out to snort a few.
Well, boss, I have some intel on this very
Do you?
specific thing. Due to, well, as we all know, the president has let's just say a highly specific diet.
Yeah.
And so White House plumbers were putting in far too much overtime. And so as part of the Doge cuts, they discovered that it would be much cheaper to just install 28 bathrooms to give the plumbers a little more leeway after the president's morning constitutional and his mid-morning and afternoon and evening and late-night constitutionals. So he can use them on a rotating basis.
now does that actually include the? What I've heard is they're moving towards biodegradable classified documents because flushing all those classified documents down the Johns is a problem. So is this part of that whole solution?
That is also part of it. Although at the same time, the obliterators, as we discussed earlier in the program, they've worked out how to compost and shred, and they are offloading that to other planets, to the dump sites.
So our classified documents can be reconstituted with an appropriate trip to Mars? That's interesting.
Yes.
Very fascinating.
Or they can be turned into parking tickets, I understand. Yeah, a lot of those are needed today. Did you notice, by the way, that Trump keeps trying to put his name on everything? One of the buildings that the obliterators used to work in, we got a picture of it, don't we? The two-footed mammal funny noise replacement center. It used to be, it was a big building before Trump bought it. And then, what happened after that really, though. I read a story in the Knives and Farts magazine. They were saying that Trump bought that building and then he changed not only the name of the building, but what it was for, and now it's called Trump Flowers. And if you want a few, well, I mean, if you want, I don't know, if you want tulips, that's where you want to go now. They're really cheap. Trump is also putting his name on old airports. There's this one, I think it's right down the street from where you used to play soccer. You recognize that, the Melvin Plutus Airport?
Well, of course, that's where some of my more memorable soccer victories were celebrated.
It's no longer going to be the Melvin Plutos Airport. The president is also putting his name on money. It's the $1,000 bill. I think they originally it was designed to be what, $3? You seem to be.
Oh, it was 2.5. But you know, you jumped off of the airport thing. You know, in the DMV, right? The D.C., Maryland, Virginia. You've got your Baltimore, you've got your Washington, and you've got your Dulles Airport. The Dulles Airport is the one that's the furthest away. That is the one that's going to inherit the Trump name.
Okay. Okay, I think I get that.
They did misname that, by the way, boss. That was supposed to be the Melba Toast International Airport.
Well, they changed all that when they got in power. I mean,
Right.
Yeah. Even the recent trip to the moon apparently has something to do with little Donnie, because when the astronauts went up there, I was initially attracted to the picture that shows the giant burger, which is the same one that's on the wall of the new ballroom. And when they went to the dark side of the moon, you know, to see what nobody had ever seen before, well, what they saw up there was the Lunar Lodge Motel, which I think was paid for with funds that you the taxpayer, have provided these funds, but it's for a secret government program.
I've invested in that heavily, which sadly means that we'll probably go out of business shortly. But
Yeah, I didn't know you could buy food up there, but apparently you can. Now, while I'm talking about jobs and space and things like that, you know, this darned ice problem that we're having. First of all, there was a movie that came out called Ethnic Fury, and I think this really made some people in the White House nervous, and they knew they had to get rid of Kristi Noem, but they didn't know who they should put in charge of the DPS or the Homeland Security, whatever you call it. So first, the president auditioned a bunch of soil mechanics. You were telling me that soil is actually dirt as a liquid, right?
well, it's actually it's essentially a solid crystalline substance which is composed of many different molecules.
Okay. Well,
But soil mechanics don't really understand that. They just dig the shit up, and
So after the soil mechanics kind of got the boot, they had a good time being interviewed at the White House, but then he decided maybe he would use electricians or an electrician. I understand some of them got a charge out of being interviewed, or they were shocked, whatever it was. But he decided against electricians, and he finally decided he would hire a plumber to run Homeland Security.
Surprisingly, none of the White House plumbers were promoted to that role. He's actually contracting his plumber from WWE On-Air Talent.
Okay.
haven't most of the White House plumbers either died or retired by now? I mean, that was the 70s after all. But
Well, you're getting too historical
Okay.
for me. I mean, that Mr. Avuncular over there, he's
He's our historian, so
Yeah.
we'll let him speak to this. Yes.
well, we'd let him, but he doesn't have a comment. So anyway,
I mean, it speaks for itself.
it does.
History speaks for itself.
It does.
You just gotta listen.
It's kind of like the Codfish Symphony is playing in my head all the time. I mean, I just can't get over it. The
Sounds like a
darn war, that's another thing that's bugging the president. Obviously, it's about oil, and they're trying to put that genie back in the bottle, but it just won't go. And it's causing headaches for Pete well, Mr. Hegseth, we'll call him Pete because he likes that. He is so mad about people reporting on the war. He said, I don't want any reporters, and I don't want these pictures of me that are unflattering. So we got a copy of some of those rejected pictures. The one that really speaks to me is the one of Pete gripping the big boot, or boat. I mean, boot. Yeah, I guess it's a boot. In the boat, he's actually posing with a lava lamp, I guess because it has oil in it. That's how they work. But he didn't like any of these pictures. As you know, he wants them all gone. And he's been talking about boats going through the Strait of Hormuz. It turns out that all of these boats, they did not contain oil as much as they contained tuna fish. That's why they were let through the strait.
Well, I understand they were supposed to be routed through the Strait of Hormel, as their newest innovation is they're working on tuna hot dogs and naming rights to dump sites as well.
Well, actually, I've heard. I mean, tuna goes really well with hummus, so I'm hearing it's a new kind of avant-garde dish that's in some of the trendy restaurants here in Houston.
Okay. Boy, that's fascinating. I mean, it's information anyway. You probably know that the big boy also is closing down the Kennedy Center. The rationale, as I understand it from an article in Law and Order magazine, was that the people who are scheduled to perform at the Kennedy Center actually don't have any talent. They don't have any talent. Let me give you a few examples of who was supposed to be performing there. The Almost Brothers were on the bill. I've always been a big fan of the Almost Brothers. You remember their song, I'm Not Your Welcome Mat?
Of course, classic.
One of the first things I learned to play on saxophone, and I Want to Hold Your Purse. That takes me way back. Another group that was scheduled to perform, the Yodeling Fools. Oh, I was leaning over, and he, it's the surgery, but we're not going to talk about that. The Yodeling Fools were also supposed to perform. You remember their song, Take a Gander at My Goose?
Well, that brings back some painful childhood memories, but yes.
It goes way back. I mean, they were performing back when they were still driving a horse and buggy through town. They're pretty old. And also there was the hip hop performer, Exquisite. He was scheduled to be performing at the Kennedy Center, but now he's moved to a casino. I still wake up don't worry, I'm just moving around here to try to get my...
We're trying to get your best side, I think, boss. Yeah.
But you can't do my job.
There you go. Well, see, you heard it first from there. Exquisite, every morning I play his song, You Got the Name Wrong. Y'all remember that one? You got the name wrong. That's a good one. Airports. if you've been to the airport lately, you know that it's a mess. And the reason that it's a mess is because of all the lions at the airport. I'm not sure why there are so many of them, except that there was a convention of party lions in San Diego, and I think they all left at the same time. There were not only lions, but there were all kinds of wildlife. Now, at the airports right now, there are new security procedures because they've had to cut back on funding. Some of the people who used to do all the inspections, they weren't getting paid, so the president said, let's give them some compensation. A lot of them, though, said, I can't really use a new lawnmower. Other people said, I can't really use a new set of golf clubs. You know, they actually thought that a paycheck would be even better. But like I said, these people are doing a job without getting paid for it, so they're having to change the procedures a little bit. Now they're just inspecting people's feet, not their entire body. But I think they have a pretty good look at all of the bones of the foot while they're, you know.
Hey, boss, is there a way I can get this job to look at people's feet, or is that?
Actually, I think you might want to talk to the people at Major League Baseball, but I'm getting to that.
Okay.
AI and robots are doing a whole lot more of our jobs lately. So you probably noticed that at the last Grammy Awards, the biggest winner was not even a human. It was a robot, okay? And if that weren't enough, the award that goes to the best writer of the year, the best novelist, that was also taken by someone who is actually an AI-inspired shell of a body type writer.
Jim mentioned that. Wasn't that barbecue BLT?
Yeah. He goes by other names. I mean, he's in a lot of people's sock music, cod music videos. I mean.
Really?
So is a music piece by him considered a cod piece? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then also there's also another category where the Oscar Awards, where another robot ran away with the big award prize. So people are starting to wonder whether they have a future, and to decide whether they have a future or not, a lot of them are going back to schools. They used to be called trade schools. Now they're, now that Major League Baseball is involved, they are trade schools.
I thought it was more barter schools. You know, there's a little exchange, like you might or might not. You don't know at the beginning of the season if you're going to get that player or you're going to get a couch.
Well, I'll tell you one thing you don't know necessarily in some cases if it's a ball or a strike, but now we have an AI machine. Major League Baseball is trying it out, along with trying out something about shoes. It decides whether something is a ball or a strike. It's been tested in the major leagues. But I understand that sometimes it says it's too close to call. Anybody know? Do you know what happens when it's too close to call?
Whoever pays the highest bribe to the umpire gets the call.
Okay, so it goes back to a human.
Yeah, human arbitrator.
Human arbitrator, just like we had in the old days.
I mean, I'm thinking if you got a ball and a strike, that's called a sore sack.
Okay, you use.
So back to the balls again with you. Okay.
I mean, but it's baseball, so you know, the strike,
Right.
the impact.
Right.
I mean, that's why I don't play. That's why I stick to my cod pieces.
I think that's why Pam Bondi went to represent the aluminum bat.
Could you actually see a strike as you peer down?
I know I can't see much. That's why it's hard to aim, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
At the ball. At the ball. I mean, yeah, 3.
I just want to cover one more subject while we're going through. I mean, we could go on all night, but we're not going to. There was an article in the current edition of Cops and Robberies. It's talking about the famous artist, we've mentioned him before, Buzzy Renoir, and the fact that a statue of Buzzy Renoir has just been stolen. I mean, in France, you hear about, museums being broken into and priceless art being taken, but I just want to make sure that you know that some of Buzzy Renoir's statues are nowhere to be found right now.
Is that a statue or a statuette? Because then you got, like in your garden, you got your little sea creatures, then you got your gnomes. Like my wife is a gnome, but
Is that like, so Christy Gnome was just one of many?
yes, many. She was one of many forest creatures, and I happen to be married to one of them.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. And on that note, I guess it's time for us to leave you now. And I hope you learned something. All of us learned something about each other. And there will be no more questions about surgical procedures at any future episodes of Paul Colby and the Investigators, which hopefully you will be watching religiously, because we are planning to start a new religion just like Big Donnie is starting. I mean, I don't necessarily want to be the first pope, but I wouldn't mind being the second. You know what I'm saying?
Or a doctor.
Or a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So until next time, enjoy yourselves and try to educate everybody else at the water cooler. See you later.
I used to be a yes man with no future. I used to be a cog on some big wheel. Inequities of every sort I endured, and so I caught myself a better deal. Consequently, meet the new me. I don't mind if you're with me or against. I'm the boss and I hadn't looked back since. I used to spend the whole game on the sidelines, fantasizing I make some big play. And then I took a good look at the guidelines. I realized that I've been led astray. Say, can you see? It's a new me. I don't mind if you're truly unconvinced. I believe every pauper is a prince. And if you change your point of view, you can be a new man too.